So based on this visitor state machine design, which is made up of the list of states, the list of events that we would like to be able to recognize, and transitions to new states, we can now basically assemble this as a new state diagrams using dynamic view state diagram. So this is new state diagram, and basically it's made up of states. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 distinct states that we've been able to describe so far. So I'll just create these state bubbles in sequence and populate them with the state names that we've used right here. So these are our states. And I'm just going to give the names to these states as we being able to describe right here. So these are, of course, the major elements of the state diagram, and I'm just going to be working with these states in sequence. I'd like to resize it to make it a little bit more readable. So the first event that we'd like to be able to analyze inside the state diagram is when we still have our tasks at the floor not empty, so we'd like to finish them first. So in this case, visiting floor, we can have an event like this, and unfortunately in Violet UML editor, I don't find it possible to create basically a transition from this state back to the same state like this. It just doesn't seem to have this option, or maybe I don't find how to do this. But what I was going to show you that we could have a specific event that transitions from this state to the same state. Okay, so I'll just skip this option for now. The next possibility is that we're visiting the floor and now we're deciding that it's time to go to the next floor. And so in that case, of course, we want to transition to the new state, calling the elevator. So here, this time, I will just use this type of state transition. And once I have it, I can add a label right here. Okay, so this label will indicate we can shorten it to, let's try this longer version first, just see how this works. Okay, yeah, so this works fine. So agenda is checked and we want to go to next floor to visit. So we transition from visiting a current floor to calling the elevator. We also may find that agenda is already empty. So in that case, we want to be able to go back to the arrival floor. So what we would like to do is still call the elevator and place requests for the arrival floor. So let's add this second event right here, like this, and in its label, we can also specify that we tried something else and it was empty like this. So once again, this UML editor gives me a little bit of difficulty with overlapping labels, so I need to be able to somehow find a way to place this in a more or less readable manner. Okay, so but these are the two possible events that may transition to the same new state. So now we're in the state of calling the elevator, and we get a chance to make an update inside the visitor class, and we would like to go to the state waiting for the elevator, right? So we add another event right here, and this event we can mark as destination request complete. So now we're in a state of still visiting the floor, but now not paying attention to any tasks on this floor, but purely waiting for the elevator to arrive. So then we have another notification, which is arrival of the elevator. So again, the next transition would be to boarding the elevator. Okay, so again, I will add this label. Elevator arrival at the floor is an event that moves us from waiting to boarding. And as we discussed, now part of the boarding, why don't we just jump directly to riding the elevator? Well, because we still have to interact with the panel inside the elevator and specify what is our destination. So this is why we need this extra step. And so then once we actually were able to interact with the elevator, then we say once this destination request is complete, right? Then I need to rearrange our states and labels a little bit to make it readable. So now, as we're riding the elevator, of course, again, there will be two possibilities: that there's an arrival at the floor, and floor is the same as our destination. Right, so we're arrival at the floor, and in this case we want to start onboarding the elevator. So right here I'll add a label that says floor equals destination. And the second possibility here would be that the floor that we arrived at does not equal our destination. Okay, so in that situation, perhaps what we need is if Violet UML editor would allow me to do that, I would indicate it just like this, that we're trying to transition like this, and in that case I would write this condition right here, or this type of arrival as a label right here. So basically floor does not equal the destination. But unfortunately Violet UML doesn't let me do this type of self-transition under certain circumstances, so I'm just going to skip this part in my diagram. And then once we're now onboarding the elevator, the next time the next update comes into our visitor state machine, we can now check whether we just onboarded at the arrival floor. Okay, so if we onboarded at the arrival floor, we'd be exiting the building now. Okay, so let's add this new state, or the state that I just have not added originally. So this will be the state that says exiting building. And it's possible to transition like this in case if the floor equals arrival floor. Okay, so if we just arrived on this floor and now we just ended up being on this floor, and that was our destination, I think the visitor state machine can decide that now it's time to exit the building. So we'll just add the label over here, exiting building, and so that would be right now just the possibility to use as transition to exit the building. So the rest of the states I'm just trying to make it so that it's as readable as possible. And finally, if the floor is not the floor where we arrived at, that means that we want to be now visiting this new floor where we just onboarded. So let's make this transition right here. And so this is another possibility. And just let's add the label to this transition, and this is the floor does not equal arrival floor. So that's my take on the design of the state machine for our visitor state machine design. And normally you would have sometimes you would have basically the state diagram that like I did, I just copied and pasted as labels the entire descriptions of my events. But sometimes the state machine design documentation can be a much longer document. There could be a lot of information about details about the events and what parameters can be involved in each event transition. So this could be a much longer document, like any design document that accompanies our diagrams. So sometimes on the diagrams, then we just place sequential numbers and very short, brief labels, and we can use these sequence numbers to go back to the documentation describing the state machine design in details.